Thank you, Marta and Heather. Just wanted to say, Heather, that both Anthropic and OpenAI have two CEOs each. And Fidji Simo she's a woman from Sète in France, who is a CEO along with Sam Altman. And Anthropic, the sister of Dario, is also the co-CEO, so to speak. But I don't know why they didn't come there. They should have, right? I absolutely agree with you on that. Hi, everyone. My name is Sagar. I'm a research scientist or researcher at SINTEF and also managing a small group there. I just want to warn you that my slides are very verbose and have a lot of insight that I've tried to condense into them. So it's a bit dense and there's a lot of text. But you can just listen to me because I'll just highlight a few things. But if there's something else that strikes you as interesting in my text, feel free to reach out and talk more about it because I've tried to put a lot of information in there. So SINTEF had a team of 4 people, myself, Alexandra, the CEO of SINTEF Concern, Dare Svensson, who's the head of my department, Sustainable Communication Technologies, and Mats Blakstad, who is a researcher at SINTEF. And we went from smiling faces there to being interviewed on NDTV, one of India's largest channels, where Alexandra did a splendid job. And 3 women. All right, so, okay. I'll start off by talking about our event, which was how to enable cross-border applied AI collaboration. So we do a lot of, SINTEF does a lot of research in Europe, but we do have some projects globally, but very few. And Nurad has been a good supporter of that, and also the Indian embassy, Norwegian embassy in India has supported some of the work, but it's very minimal outside Europe. So the question is, what can we do to enable that? So we had a World Cafe session, which was sort of sparked by 4 presentations. First one was by Alexandra, who spoke about why cross-border applied AI collaboration matters now. And then we had Pasi Toivanen, who's the senior vice president at, next was Anil Sharma, who was from TCS Coin. So he talked about how to do this in practice because TCS has a global outreach and they do projects all around the world. So he gave some examples around that. And then we had Pasi Toivanen, who is from Nokia, senior vice president. He spoke about how to sort of have sovereign control of what we do in Europe, while also being open at the same time. And finally, we had Anand Kamanwar, who is from a venture capital firm called Applied Ventures. They work with deep tech. And he talked about how they collaborate with governments, venture capital collaborating with governments to fund deep tech initiatives around AI in specific ecosystems. So the key insights were that Alexandra spoke about AI as not being only about intelligence, but being a coordination layer. So AI now allows you to have very unstructured mechanisms for coordinating between entities, between people. So you can interact much faster, and this coordination enables us to actually work across borders. And she mentioned that an example of energy, the grid, for example, the grids in Norway, energy grid talking to grids in Europe, and so on. How can AI enable that grid to ensure our energy security? Then we had Anil Sharma, who talked about concrete examples of what they have been doing around the world in terms of applied AI. He talked about an exhibition they set up in Munch Museum for a few months, where they were sort of using AI to make it interactive for people to discover Munch's art. And then he also talked about AI in the very big Kumbh Mela setup, which had millions of people come for a religious gathering to sort of enable that, and that thing goes smoothly. Pasi Toivanen talked about the need for hyperscalers in Europe. So hyperscalers are huge data centers that allow you to deploy your models locally, but also talked about open standards in terms of APIs and platform, open RAN and so on, which can enable sort of openness and trust within the European setup. So Nokia has had a very interesting past, as you know. They've gone up and down, and now they are into putting all their energy into data centers for Europe, hyperscalers, so which would be very interesting to follow up on. And finally, Anand spoke about a very specific example, which is the Korea Fund, where they're sort of collaborating with the Korean government to fund deep tech startups around deep tech ecosystems, which means, to make it more concrete, you have semiconductor industry in Korea, which is an ecosystem which is well established for your Samsung phones and so on. So how do you build a fund where global players can come in and create or invest into startups or businesses around such a deep tech ecosystem? Something like this could be done in Norway for the maritime sector, for instance, or welfare, but more deep tech also maybe some of the sensing work that we do. When it comes to audience input, so we have had an interactive session in a very crowded room. We did one session there, but we had an online session later on. There came a lot of interesting input, and trust obviously is one of them. And one of the main challenges with trust is enforceable governance. Like, how do you, I mean, I don't mean only surveillance, but enforceable governance. So if you have policy, how do you enforce that people actually, get incentives, tax incentives for doing the right thing or for working together in useful ways. So also another thing that was very interesting to me was people talked about the differences in regulations. So India has a DPDPA, Europe has GDPR. So one of the ideas was to build a regulation matrix, because that's a document of trust, the regulatory frameworks. How do we build a matrix between the different countries on what kind of regulations they have and see where we meet and where we don't, and sort of take collaboration from there. Local adaptation was also very important for many of them, which is to adapt to literacy levels, language, and so on. And a tax incentive. So India has given tax holidays to a lot of the large technology companies to come and set up data centers in India. I don't know to what extent that's good, but that's an instrument that they say can enable cross-border collaboration. All right, so that was a bit about our session, but we had a lot of different meetings along the course of the AI Summit. I'll talk about some of them. Just let me know if I'm running out of time and I can stop. So I've put the most interesting ones in the beginning and the less interesting ones in the end. So we had a meeting with the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. We have had some projects with them in the past, SINTEF, and we have also submitted a proposal with them to work on cement co-processing in Vietnam and India. So this institute is essentially both a funding agency and a network of research institutes across India. So we have a shared focus, at least SINTEF, on sustainability, advanced manufacturing, AI, and environmental research. So we are pursuing joint proposals. So one thing that came up constantly was, will India join the Horizon Europe framework so that we can actually have a governance setup to manage projects that we can do across borders? So there are a lot of discussions around it. India may join the program in the next framework program, which is in 2028. And if that happens, it opens up a lot of possibilities and floodgates, a lot of challenges when it comes to governing such things cross borders, but it would be interesting to see. This was led also by two women, Alexandra and the Director General of CSR, who's also a woman. Not to hark on that, but it was, just wanted to mention the other side of things. Then we had SINTEF present at the Norwegian Embassy, along to the Norwegian Embassy and Innovation Norway. And we presented SINTEF. We are represented by 80 different nationalities, customers in Norway and Europe. And right now we have a strong focus on deep tech. And also sustainability. So we presented that our advanced labs for ocean biotech and sensor development, and also gave examples of projects we do and how we work with the industry. Okay. So the Embassy and Innovation Norway are both very interested in collaborating with us. We also have ongoing work with TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, So we met the head of the TCS Europe, Sapta. He has about 40,000 people under him, so it was incredible to meet someone like that for Alexandra and Odare. And then we also met the CTO of manufacturing in TCS, Naresh Mehta. And we looked at two areas that they think are interesting, which is physical AI and situated awareness. We also had a meeting with the Gates Foundation. It was interesting to hear Gates Foundation's perspective on the type of development they want. They're looking into vaccine development instead of, I mean, they do a lot of implementation, but vaccine development using AI for that would be good, yeah. So we looked into how this can, we can collaborate on advanced health manufacturing. We also were invited to the Gates Foundation Grand Challenges. A couple of panels. Alexandra represented us at panels about AI, equity, digital security, and here we sort of discuss inclusive AI and reflect on diversity of language, literacy level cultures. AGI was a very interesting topic. We'll probably discuss this later, I don't know, but our main take here was latency is a bottleneck to AGI. Humans are able to make complex decisions very quickly with a lot of data or information, multimodal information. AI, as it is today, cannot. So there is a sort of blockage there. And Demis Hassabis talked about the AGI benchmark, which is a 1911 test, where you use all the data before 1911 to train an AI model. Can you actually come up with the theory of general relativity? And this has not been solved either. Meetings with World Health Organization on assistive technologies. We also met Vadvani AI, which was a very interesting entity in India, impacting a lot of lives with AI. So we might work with them. And finally, some takeaways for us. India is not so much into regulation, but into safe scaling. So Norway's strength lies in translating deep technology into trusted, socially beneficial applications through strong public-private partnerships. The trust allows us to make test beds for the world. We cannot have low-cost labor and have mass production, but we can provide very good test beds as a service. India stands as an important partner for practical and impactful AI, where you can also, especially for large-scale deployment. That's pretty much it from me.